Welcome back to Sister Scoop, where we are covering the big three Marvel news topics of the week. Getting right into our very first topic, Laurence Fishburne, possibly as Professor X. What are our thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, just to clarify quickly, this isn't even necessarily a rumor that he's talking to the studio. He's just out
Yes.
here at New York Comic Con saying, "Hello, my name is Laurence Fishburne, and I would like to play Professor X.
Yeah.
I aspire to be this bold in my life and go after what I want the way that he does so publicly, so I admire that. I think he's a great actor, so I would not be opposed to him playing Professor X at all from an acting standpoint. Where I do have a
Yes.
challenge
Yep.
is, of course, he played Bill Foster. And y'all know I really I struggle with characters who are so obviously going to play multiple characters, or with actors who are so obviously going to play multiple characters. We've had some who, have been in and out of like strong prosthetics or really heavy makeup, and you can't really tell.
Yeah.
So that's different to me. But he, like, that was his full face, his regular everyday, that's Laurence Fishburne face. So if he's going to do that as Professor X, that's a little tough. Even with like a multiversal storyline, he's still like the face of Bill Foster, who's like a very notable character. So
Yes.
I struggle.
Yeah, honestly, I'm on the exact same page. And honestly, I'm going to just say something that I think a lot of people, I think this has been a feeling just in Hollywood in general, and movie making in general. Are there not other actors out there? And I don't mean this just towards him. I think this has been a sentiment I've been seeing a lot online, honestly, as well. So it's just like, it feels like we're recycling the same couple people in the same types of movies. The MCU was built off of a lot of no-name actors, if we're being honest. So I get it. It's big now. We're going to have big names, and we've had some really successful big names join the MCU. That's no dig towards any of them. But I'm looking at you, Angelina Jolie. But anyway, um, you know, either way, I do think, it's a new role. Give it to somebody else. It doesn't have to be a big name. It could be anybody. It could be another big name. But to your point, at the very end of the day, I think the biggest issue for me with it is you were already in the MCU. You were already in this role. I get it. I'd want to play my dream role too. Like if I, was an actor and I did something, but I'm like, but I really want to play like Rogue or something. Like I get it. But you already agreed 5, 6, 7 years ago to have done the role you did. I'd like to see somebody else do it. Also, it's going to be a big role. And so therefore, can we not repeat an actor, give it to somebody else, give the opportunity to somebody else? I love him, but you filled your MCU, your quota's been filled. Let's say it that way.
Yeah, it's definitely like a bummer that, I mean, look, Bill Foster isn't a small role in that film, right? Like,
Yeah.
He's important to the plot. He's there very much with our main cast. He kind of waffles between an antagonist and a protagonist depending on the part of the story and the perspective. So he's a very nuanced, very interesting, complicated character. He's great. And Laurence Fishburne is wonderful in the role. And what I say all that to say, the reason I'm pointing this out is like, it's not like he, had a couple of scenes and it's a small thing and then you can kind of play it off, right? Like I feel like there have been actors in the past that have had like really small, like 2-minute scenes and you're like, we don't have to talk about that. Like it's so tiny, like it's minuscule. He had a genuine like role in the MCU.
Yeah.
One of our current new Avengers like has a relationship with him. He technically could come, he's not dead, right? He could come back at any point.
So. Yeah.
So like, he could reprise his role. So that's the other thing too, is like the level of role that he played is, kind of a blocker. And I would just say like, there's a part of me that's a little sad that he ended up with a role that isn't the first role that's going to have a bunch of appearances, right? Like he is such a good actor and he is someone who could carry a role for multiple films. So it's kind of a bummer that he ended up in one of those that's like kind of meant to stay in one film roles, even though he was great in it. Like, especially now knowing he like has the appetite to do more, I almost wish they would have held off and like given him a role like a Professor X instead of kind of pigeonholing him into like the Bill Foster square, because Bill Foster isn't nearly as prominent a character.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I'm going to sum it up with it is what it is. I'd like to see somebody else play the role personally, somebody new. But moving on to our next topic, we did get news regarding how Daredevil Born Again and Brand New Day, Spider-Man Brand New Day, are going to be pretty much guaranteed to be linked, which I think we assumed after the last season of Daredevil. We kind of thought, I think we thought things would go in a different direction that they did, but we still kind of thought there'd be a strong connection. Kind of hard to not connect Spider-Man, especially now that he's in Manhattan. We know what's happening in Manhattan. So I'm excited about this news. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think we've all been waiting for the Daredevil Spider-Man team up. So I'm really hoping we get some more Matt Murdock moments. We obviously had him in No Way Home, but this is exciting news to me.
It is super exciting. I would say, like, on one level, I 100% agree that it's not surprising because of what is going on. I mean, they didn't name drop Spider-Man, but they all knew, like, we all knew what that reference was in Daredevil. So that was awesome. And continued to just connect these two characters who have already interacted. However, the one thing I will say from a more meta standpoint is we also know that they're trying to like do this weird thing where the shows don't affect the movies and like all that. They like had that conversation. And I know that their strategy changes every single week because they also said they were going to roll back the shows and then have 5 coming out next year. So, you know, I don't actually know how much they believe what they say, but it from that perspective, it is a little bit interesting to have them come out and so completely. Hi, Gam.
Sorry, guys, we're having a guest star on the podcast here.
But it is interesting to have them come out and so completely say like these two are going to be linked when it sounded like on the whole they're trying not to do that. So mixed signals.
You know, I just choose to ignore it, honestly, because quite frankly, you're right. Like they have rewritten their narrative and their strategy 17 times. Obviously, we've covered it every single time they've decided to change it. And I sit back and I do think, to a degree, things do need to be linked. It's an extended universe, and I think to sit there and be like, we're gonna make no shows linked to any of the movies and vice versa, which I would actually say they, for the most part, have actually done on accident.
Yeah,
a lot of the shows feed into each other, but like movies not so much and vice versa, like maybe a little bit but not like so directly. There's a couple of examples, don't get me wrong, but
basically the Thunderbolts movie.
yeah that was honestly what I was thinking about. So that being said, they've actually avoided doing it to a degree, but you do, especially when you like it's that age-old question of like, well, if all these heroes are in the same city, why is nobody doing like, oh, I'll sit this one out. Matt's got it. I'll sit this one out. Doctor Strange, it seems a little too mystical for me. Like, I think it comes to a point where you cannot have this happening in New York and be like, Spider-Man doesn't care. Like, I'm not sure that is something you could do at all. So I'm just going to ignore it and just say, it makes sense to me. These two projects, these two characters are intricately linked in the comics. They belong to be linked. They're in the same city. It all is meant to be how it's meant to be. And that's okay. I'll take the news the way I like it. It's what I want to hear, and I'll move on with it.
Yeah. I mean, sounds good to me.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to our last one. Oh, do I have some weird mixed feelings about this? So our guy Glen Powell is being looked at possibly for the role of Nova. I'm not inherently mad about this because I do have a very soft spot for Glen Powell. I think he's so funny. But I don't know how I feel just in general about it.
It's interesting because the thing that like weirds me out about this conversation isn't so much like Glen Powell in the MCU, because my first thought was, so this is twofold. Part of it is Glenn has been talking about like, oh yeah, I've never been contacted by Marvel or DC. Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, we got to get him before DC does. We have to lock him down. Like, we can't lose him to them. No shade to them. I just want him in our universe. And like, I don't love crossing streams. So like, we're not doing that. I mean, he's free to do it, but I would like him not to. Anyway, so my first thought is like, lock him down. He's ours. Get that man in a contract. But then the part of the reason that of the reason that we're talking about this is the person who is talking about him being Nova, and that's Michael Waldron. Now, let me give you a little bit of background on Michael Waldron. If you recognize the name but are not like, I don't, like, you can't immediately talk about his projects. The man wrote MOM, which means this is the man, the much maligned man, who wrote Wanda without watching WandaVision.
Yes.
So, because it is Michael Waldron putting him forward as Nova, it loses excitement and credibility for me, because Michael Waldron is like number one on my poo-poo list, because he also did Loki and we didn't like Loki. So like that man is like 0 for 3. I don't know if he did both seasons, so we'll say 0 for 2.
Yeah,
I don't trust him.
I don't trust him. My thing is, I think Glen Powell is just a very funny actor. Like he's one of those that like inherently Hollywood's tried to be like heartthrob, but he as a person is just
so
like
dorky.
Yes, and he's just like inherently unable to just kind of fit the heartthrob motto. Like the box is not there for him. He's too far out of it. And so that's why I love him. I mean, I've seen like most things this man has been in just like by accident, but I would like to see him join the MCU. I do think there is a spot for him. I do think there's a character for him that lets him play into the type of actor he is, in my opinion. Is it Nova? Is it because of Michael? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think Glenn also has a range that I don't think is always tapped into, that I would be intrigued to see that come out. I think he has the looks for it. I, again, like subconsciously just love him. So, you know, I'm just going to let that go. If it happens, it happens. I kind of am on board for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not inherently against it. I just think Michael Waldron needs to shut up so I can actually feel something real about it.
For sure. Like, it being Michael is definitely a fear of mine.
Yeah.
But I do love Glen Powell, and I am looking forward to if he makes his MCU debut. He is the type of actor that I could see either the MCU or DC going for at this point. He's got the name. I feel like they've been, I just said, bringing in the big names. I feel like he's been one of those actors for the past like probably 2 years, really starting to get that recognition. And so I'm not shocked he's on a list, if that's for sure a part of this rumor. That doesn't surprise me, but I don't know. We'll have to see how that one plays out.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, actually, you know who I could see him as? Not like tonally, but like looks wise. I could actually see him as Cyclops.
I knew you were going to say that.
Was he one of my picks?
Honestly, we did that so long ago. I don't remember.
I know, that was like 18 months ago.
I don't think Glen Powell ever came up.
I feel like he did. I feel like he did. Because it was like right after. It was like 6 months after like Top Gun.
I love Top Gun.
I know. I've actually never seen it. I'm like the one person in America.
We love Bob Part 2. Well, he was Bob Part 1, really, and then Bob Part 2. We love him, and we love our man Glen Powell. And our new Falcon was in it. If Glen joins, that's at least the third member from Top Gun Maverick that will now be in the MCU.
Well, and I mean, if we're going to say that everything is canon, Miles Teller was a Reed Richards.
Oh, yeah.
I know we don't want to talk about it, but like, it's there.
Yeah.
It exists.
Well, on that horrible note, we're going to wrap this because I don't want to keep thinking about that. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this week's Sister Scoop. We'll be back next week as we bring 3 more Marvel news topics to your screen. Make sure you guys are also listening to us on the podcast side as we continue our replay series. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.